David Forst joins us for the David Forst Show right here on A's Cast Live. David, how are you?
Hey, Tony. Hey, Cody. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. First off, do you like the way it is now to where we got a trading deadline? There's a cutoff, boom, boom, no waiver process whatsoever. If you're going to get your guy, you got to get him now.
Well, I don't know. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but I prefer flexibility, and and I think the way we had it for a long time with trade waivers still allowed you to make moves if you needed to after the July 31st deadline, or I guess this year it was August 1st. But look, there's certainly an urgency created. I think without any deadline whatsoever, guys always sort of push it off and wait to see what they can get. But yeah, we work within the rules we're given. So I guess it was an exciting day on Tuesday.
And that's something you've always been so honest about. Just tell me the rules, and that's how we're going to play and be prepared for. What was your phone like? Was it just ringing off the hook? What was it like heading up to the deadline?
I mean, we stayed pretty busy. Obviously, we ended up making 2 deals, 3 if you include, Fujinami about a week plus before the deadline. But, I think we understood sort of where we were in the pecking order in terms of trade conversations, who the guys on our club were that were going to generate interest, and also who we just weren't going to talk about. I mean, there were certainly calls and asks on, some of the young pitchers, some of the young position players who we really do see being here in the next contention cycle, the next playoff team for the A's, and didn't make sense to talk about those guys despite the requests.
I mean, if someone says, hey, we're kind of thinking Geloff, do you just go, really? Really?
God, did I get a call on Geloff? I don't know that I got that one specifically, but
how about Medina? Because Medina's feeling right now.
Yeah, Luis has had a pretty good month. Yeah, absolutely. Medina, Sears, Noda, all these guys generate interest. As soon as you start contributing, there are playoff teams out there that, look, if you entertain the conversation, you never know what you might end up with. And that's kind of our job, to do the due diligence and at least look into it. But like I said, I think we feel like a lot of the guys who are here right now are making progress, have a chance to grow with us. And, obviously the results on the field aren't what we want right now, but I think you can see in certain games or, certain at-bats or certain innings, there's, you see what the progress looks like and see what it might be down the road.
I'm glad you bring up Noda, because we talked to Mark Kotze earlier today about this, and you know how much I like him. I miss him. I miss Ruiz, right? Ruiz was leading the National League. I mean, was leading all of baseball in stolen bases. Noda was leading the American League in walks. I mean, they were fun to watch every day because they're a part of the future. I know that's how I feel watching it every day. How do you feel about it? You got to miss them too.
No doubt. Yeah, you miss watching the excitement. You miss having them be part of the group and get those reps and sort of, what I just said is sort of see the light, see what it looks like at the end of the tunnel. And I'm excited. We're going to get both those guys back hopefully soon. Esteury maybe as soon as this weekend. Noda, we're hoping he goes out to play next week. But yeah, I miss having them out here too. And I think, when you put them with the group that's sort of getting reps right now, I think it's, it's that much more fun to watch. Again, results are what they are, and we're going to try and win more games. And we had a nice 2-out-of-3 series in Colorado where, you mentioned Luis, you get to see him pitch, and you see some of these guys hit the ball the way they can. So getting Esteury and Noda back absolutely will be an important part for the last couple of months.
All right, looking back at the trading deadline, I was open to whatever you're going to be able to make happen. You were able to move Sam Mull. You were able to move Jace Peterson. Obviously, you're looking for pitching. You're trying to get as much pitching into the organization. Joe Boyle is a big guy out of Notre Dame. Chad Patrick is a guy that you're looking at, a 4th rounder. So you got a 5th rounder and a 4th rounder, 2 guys who can start, probably do other things. Talk about the 2 pitchers you're bringing into this organization.
Yeah, I think a lot is made of us sort of specifically targeting pitching. And obviously when you look at our trades, over the last couple of years. There's a lot of pitchers in them. Waldachuk, Sears, Medina, all in our rotation right now. All came in the same trade. We are really out there looking for the best player. I can tell you, we talked about a lot of position players over the course of the last week in conversation. We landed on these two guys. I'm excited about Joe Boyle, no doubt. It's a big arm. It's a big fastball. When you line him up on paper, he looks a lot like Louis did when we traded for him a year ago. The stuff is there. The command needs work. And I think, I think Louis really put in the work. I mean, this guy he's a worker. He's a good student. He knows what he wants. So it's not, we don't have a magic formula, but I like our odds of, getting this guy in the strike zone. He's going to pitch, I think, tomorrow night for Midland. So I'm excited to see him go out there. And the same with Chad, 4 or 5 pitch guy, has competed in Double-A. In fact, he shoved against Midland just last week. So that didn't hurt his cause for coming over here in a deadline trade. But adding 2 starting pitchers at the Double-A level was a really good outcome for us.
I'm not sure if there's a difference in the numbers than when you first started and where we are now, but it's like every day I wake up like McClanahan with Tampa. At one point, we're like, this guy's going to win the AL Cy Young Award. He's going back to Tampa again to look at his forearm and his elbow. I mean, every day you wake up, somebody's hurt. So is it different trying to build pitching, not only at the big league level, but also in the minor leagues with so many guys hurt? Caprellian just, now surgery. Is it tougher now to get the depth inside the entire organization than it was when you first started?
I don't know if it's tougher now, but unfortunately it's not any different, despite a lot of the things that we've done to try and take care of arms. And you talk about pitch counts and inning limits and, sort of cutting back on workload. God, I just don't know that we found the right formula. And it's too bad because, there's so many talented guys out there who are being held up because of injury. I mean, shoot, you don't have to look much further than Mason Miller in our own clubhouse right now. And look, Mason he's getting ready to throw a live BP, I think, next week. And he's got a couple 2-up bullpens. We're kind of holding our breath and crossing all our fingers and toes that this one sticks. But it's hard to keep guys healthy. And that as someone who puts together a roster, puts together a farm system, you got to have depth and you got to have layers and layers of reinforcements. And it's still part of our game, no doubt.
And I know for me, obviously, after the game, when you talk to the fans, we're going to get to this point as you get later into August where there's veteran guys, younger guys. You want to see the younger guys play. You weren't able to, I don't know how many more of the older guys you tried to trade or you weren't able to trade, but just talk about that dance as you get later in the season. Next thing you know, September call-ups. You're looking at Lawrence Butler at another big night in Las Vegas last night. Everybody's buzzing about it. So what is that like from the front office standpoint? Because veterans have a lot of pride and you want to treat them well, but yet you want your young guys to play and develop.
Look, it's the same balance we've been trying to do all year, sometimes more successfully than others. You recognize the value of experience and what it teaches guys about how to go about their business every day, what it teaches guys about what it means to be a big leaguer and how to win. So you can't roll out there with a group of 26 rookies. It just doesn't work. The manager does absolutely everything in his power to teach these guys, and obviously he was a great player in his own right, and he can impart on them the lessons that he learned. But the reality is it comes from the other 25 guys in that room, and you look around if you're a player and you try and find role models of how you do it, how you prepare, how you work out before and after the game, how you hold yourself in the dugout. All these things have to come from guys who've been there before. So it is a balance. And going back, your first question where I talked about having less flexibility than we used to, like you only get 2 roster spots now in September. So you get a 1 position player, 1 pitcher. We used to have kind of an unlimited. Yeah, you only get to go to 28 in September.
Wow.
So, and you have a 14 pitcher max. So it's not like those years where you could bring up 5 or 6 guys and let them get their feet wet. So it's a
You had a whole other
balance.
bus you had to get for some of these teams.
Yeah, no, there were years we drove Mickey nuts with all the guys that we brought up. So, no, it's part of the game, and
That changes a lot.
you sort of figure it out, and you balance young and old, you balance winning and development. None of that stuff changes just because the calendar turns to September.
That changes a lot. You're only getting one guy, so position players. So as I'm sitting here ranting and raving at night after the games, Hernandez has to come up, Butler, Harris, all the you got one guy to bring up in September. That is definitely different. Very interesting. Also interesting, you love when you look at Fangraphs and you see this piece on Medina where it starts talking about his year is replacement level, as they like to say. But you look at this month and he's pitching like an ace. I know we can look at all the data you want. I'm just saying, just looking at him, the confidence. You could just see in a professional athlete when the light starts to go on. You can see it in his face. You can see it in his eyes. You can see it when the camera's on him in the dugout. Just this month, he has changed. What have you seen?
Well, I've seen the performance change, but the look in his eyes that you're talking about, I think that's been there since we got him. I think, I mentioned earlier, this is a guy who works constantly, who studies, who wants to learn. Emo has told me time and time again since Louis got here, how much this guy watches. He watches other guys throw their sides. He goes down there with a purpose when he throws his own sides. And I don't know if you remember, but Mark went to the Dominican last offseason. He had dinner with 7 or 8 guys who were down there. A couple of guys on the roster, a couple of minor league guys. And I remember him calling me afterwards and saying, like, Medina really made an impression because it was a mixed bag from him last year when he came over. He had a couple starts. He didn't get out of the first inning. The command was an issue, and everyone was saying, "Oh, this guy's just a reliever." But we didn't really know what we had. And Mark called me after that dinner he had. He said, "Hey, Medina, this guy wants to win. He wants to be good." And it's not a finished product, but you're right. What we've seen in the last month with the breaking ball, the success he's had getting swings and misses in the strike zone, throwing strikes with his fastball. These are sort of all the ingredients that you hoped would come, and that if he does put it all together for an extended period of time, give him a chance to be a really good major league pitcher.
When people are successful in business, see, for some reason in sports, fans don't like to think of this as a business. But if you read any type of literature about successful people in this world, and people have been very successful in business, and they can be bold and they can be innovators, they can be all these different things. But one thing that a lot of them also have is patience. And a lot of people aren't patient. We're not wired like that as human beings. Where you're talking like Medina. Medina comes up, he's walking the world. Oh my God, what do we get from the Yankees? But you have to have patience. Talk about in your job. It's tough, but you have to have it if you're going to be successful and if you're going to do it for a long time.
It's a really hard thing to sort of remind yourself. I'm not particularly patient. I don't think Dan Feinstein is. I don't think Billy O is. I know Mark Kotze is not. It is a really hard thing to remind yourself that you have to be. And look, I don't think the fans want to have to be patient. That's not what that's not what they're looking for. They want to come out here and see a winner, and we do too. But you're right, Chris. Patience is critical, and it requires some vision too. I mean, you have to sort of look at what's gone on here this year and have a little bit of vision to say, like, hey, I'm willing to pick out the positives. I'm willing to sort of look at how guys are making progress little by little by little and be patient for it all to come together. Because otherwise, if you're not, you make decisions that are mostly emotional and mostly aren't going to help you. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a huge, huge part of being successful.
And there's certain guys that you look at, like I'm a big Henry Bolte fan. Obviously, as a Bay Area kid from Palo Alto High, the first time we met him, I mean, his face looked like a high schooler. His body looked like he could be playing in the NFL. You're just like, gee, you have these guys, and they might be a ways away, but when you start talking about the vision, are you seeing a guy like Henry Bolte, and you see like, folks, just wait. I know it's tough to preach patience, but in a few years, some of these guys are coming and they're going to be legit.
Yeah, Henry's a good example. I know he had 2 homers the other night in Visalia. He's been really fun to watch kind of mature over the course of the year for a 19-year-old to go into the Cal League and do what he's done. You know, both show power, show patience, just really kind of stay afloat in that league has been great. But you're right. You know, you got Bolte there. You've got, you know, Muncy moved up to Double A. Now Jacob Wilson's with Susac in High A, along with, you know, a guy like Colby Thomas, who very quietly has, you know, has had a really nice year and continued to get better over the course of the year. And we've seen Lawrence and Hernandez and Harris move up. You've got a guy like Laz Armenteros in Double A, who, again, steady progress. This guy's on a path to potentially be really good. So, yeah, it's all part of the waiting game, and you know, it's good for us to sort of just be coming off the draft because it's a reminder that, oh yeah, these guys all start from a certain place, and it takes a little while to get there. You obviously have exceptions who get to the big leagues in 12 months or whatever it is, but the normal path still takes some time, and you have to wait for these guys.
Patience.
It's the word of the day.
Got to have patience. Not everybody can be like Al Kaline and leave the high school prom and be starting for the Tigers for the next 20 years. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way.
You're dating yourself, Chris. If you had gone with Ken Griffey Jr., it would have made more sense.
Well, I always bring him up because when we were in Detroit one time, it was just me in our broadcast booth, and he came in and said, "Excuse me, son, I'm Al Kaline," and I just turned around. I'm like, oh my, yeah, I know who you are. Like, I was like, what? And he introduced himself and he said, "I'd like to sign baseballs for your community fund." I went, "Yes, sir, Mr. Kaline. I'll go down and get baseballs." I mean, it was like the most surreal thing ever. I always bring up Al Kaline. It's a great example. Hey, great stuff as always. We appreciate it. Can't wait the next two months. We're going to hopefully see a lot of growth with your ball club and a lot of the young guys. That is the future, and patience is the word of the day.
That's the idea. I'm looking forward to a couple good crowds this weekend against the Giants. I'll see you out here on Saturday.
Oh, quickly, one more. The A's Hall of Fame, it's very, very special.
Yes.
Obviously, Jason Giambi, you've known him very well for years. Just a quick thing about Jason Giambi and how great this new A's Hall of Fame is, where we celebrate the greatness of this organization.
No doubt. It's going to be a fun day on Sunday. I'm so excited and happy for Jason and Kristen and their family. I mean, he's responsible for a lot of my great memories here at the A's. I mean, my first few years, you know, Jason was kind of a larger than life figure. And you think about, you know, the home run off Stanton to walk it off and some of the, you know, the playoff hits, and yeah, to sort of have followed his career. Obviously he came back here for a stretch, but he just is such a huge personality and such a big part of A's history that I'm excited, frankly, just to see him over the weekend, but happy for him that he's getting this honor. Looking forward to his speech on Sunday and getting a nice applause from the fans when he comes back home.
Yeah, it's going to be very emotional. Great stuff. We'll see you this weekend.
Okay, Tony, I'll see you.
David Forst, the general manager of your Oakland Athletics.